Talk to me a little bit about, so why did you decide to run for office?
Well, I decided to run for office. I've been a little disappointed about what's been happening at the West Virginia legislature the last several years. And this last year, especially, the repeal of the prevailing wage, which in West Virginia, one of the states with the lowest incomes in the country, for the state to actually reduce construction worker wages, thinking that it would bring additional business into our communities. I just couldn't understand attacking working families that way. And I know from having done a lot of construction work myself in my past business experience that when you use a prevailing wage, you pay decent wages and benefits to folks who are trained and do quality work, which bring projects in on time and on budget, which in itself saves money. And I was just appalled by that measure, and that was what kind of pushed me over the edge to run for office. I was angry like a lot of West Virginians are.
And so, have you been in politics before? Is this your first run? Tell us a little bit about yourself.
This is my first run. I have not been involved. I've never run for office before, but I have been involved. I've worked several jobs where I've completed legislative advocacy work. I have testified before Congress before on both budget and policy issues. So I'm very understanding of the political process. I have a degree in political science from West Virginia University. So while I've never been in office, I do have experience.
And what are some of the things, if you do go in, I know you said prevailing wage, what are some of the other things that you think need changed in West Virginia or made better, especially in this area?
My number one priority is that we really need to make education in West Virginia a priority. We've had a lot of reforms over the years, and our numbers still continue to stay at the bottom of the level when you talk about a national scale. And I think it's important that we put our money where our mouth is, that we make education a priority and not continue to cut those funds that have been cut significantly over the last 4 or 5 years because of the budget issues. I think the only way we're going to ever increase our workforce and bring businesses into West Virginia is that if we have a qualified, trained workforce. Not everyone needs to go to college, but everyone needs to have a skill that's marketable. And those are some of the hindrances that we have in West Virginia, and that's one of the main platforms that I'm running on.
And tonight at the debate, what are you hoping some of the things we'll talk about?
Well, I think we're going to have to talk about budget issues, and I think we're going to have to talk about efficiencies in state government. I am all for, making sure that government runs the most effective and efficient way that it can, but not at the detriment of some of our basic services. I think is critical. I hope that'll happen. I hope we'll talk about that. I also hope we'll talk about the opioid epidemic. It's really been another big hindrance to our state, and I think we need to go after the doctors and the drug companies that allowed that to happen, really fostered and created an atmosphere for, enough drugs to come into this state that could never even have a prescription for every man, woman, and child. I think that it really is something that we have to deal with effectively, or we're going to lose a generation of folks to drugs, and it's just the wrong thing to do. I think we need to take the money that comes in from those pharmaceutical companies and the doctors who created this situation to add additional treatment beds across the state to deal with the issue effectively. And I also think we need to expand the drug courts that have been very successful here in the northern part of West Virginia to actually get people into treatment and not just incarcerate folks, which also costs us a lot of money.
And as far as you have two candidates running against you, why are you the best candidate?
Well, I believe I'm the best candidate because I bring a varied experience to the table. I've had public experience with housing agencies. I've worked in the public finance field from a private perspective. And my husband and I own a small business here in Moundsville. We have for 35 years. So we know how hard it is for small businesses to make it in West Virginia. We've had to make a payroll for 30 years. I understand all of those aspects. So I understand the government aspect, the private aspect, and the small business aspect of running a state. And I think that's what I bring to the table that makes me a better candidate for the West Virginia State Senate.